What's up, everybody? Today is going to be a little bit of a different format, and today I'm going to be doing a Q&A. So I haven't done anything like this before, but I thought, why not? Let's get this started. I would love to answer a lot of questions, and you guys do ask a lot of questions in the comments, but it's usually always related to the video in some way or the other. But today I'm going to get down to a little bit more personal, or whatever you want it to be. So be sure to follow me on social media to get those notifications. I'll try to do these regularly. So if you want to find out when I'm going to be doing a video and want to ask your question, follow me on social media. I have all the links down below so that you can ask me the questions when I do this again. So let's start off with a simple one, and that is, which phone are you currently using? Now, the first couple of these questions a lot of people ask, so I'm just going to bunch them together and give you the common answer. Which phone are you currently using? And the simple answer is the iPhone 10. The iPhone 10 has been my primary phone ever since it came out. For 1 week, I was using the 8 Plus in the middle, but always iPhone 10. Secondary phone is the phone I'm usually testing, and that's always an Android somehow. So right now, it's the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2. What equipment do you use to film your videos? So this is an interesting one, and generally, it's a Nikon D5600 with an 18-55 lens. And a Zoom H1 mic with this lapel mic from Sony. I don't remember the exact description, but I'll have the links to it down in the description below. And honestly, they're not anything too fancy. It's very basic. And I try to keep it as simple as possible because it's only me doing all the filming, editing, and everything. So I don't have many people to, help me stage things up. So I try to keep it simple, and that's it. Just one camera, one mic. I do use an iPhone on some occasions to film. Maybe if I do need a secondary shot, I'll just have it sitting on a tripod to the side, but generally it's just one camera. Next question related to the videography equipment, that is, what computer do you use to edit your video? So I use a 2012 MacBook Pro. It is the non-Retina model, so I bought the computer before I started making videos, and I didn't really know I was going to be doing this, so if I knew that at that time, I probably would have gotten something with a little bit more guts in it, but it does work out fine for me. I did upgrade it from the 500 GB HDD to a SSD, and I did upgrade it from 4 gigs of RAM to 16 gigs of RAM. For now, it does okay. I don't have too much trouble. The only real trouble comes in when I'm, when I have a very intense timeline in Final Cut. Otherwise, it's getting the job done, but I am looking forward to upgrade soon enough. Oh, here's a couple of controversial ones. So, Mac versus PC. Now, this is an interesting one, and the thing is, I started off using PCs for most of my younger childhood. I had PCs in school. There was only Windows computers at my house, and it wasn't until I was, I believe, 14 or 15 that I actually got to using my first MacBook. And it wasn't anything special. It was the white unibody plastic MacBook, just MacBook, not the Pro. And it was very basic, but I just bought it because it was an Apple computer. I didn't really know anything about it. I didn't understand it, but it was the first MacBook that I got. I used that for up until 2016, actually, when I changed out and got a MacBook Pro that I'm currently using. And I also have an iMac, which I bought in 2013. But that was my first Mac, and I kind of prefer it now. Windows used to be my go-to, but the thing with Windows is there's always some issue with some driver. There's always some update screwing something up. Nothing seems to ever work off the bat like it should. There's always something you need to fiddle with. And I can understand why a lot of people like that and why they would use that. But for me, I just can't. I like the simplicity of Mac. I understand the limitations of the Mac, and the real only limitation is you can't game on it, and I really don't game on my computers anyway. I have a Xbox for that, so I'm covered. So the real reason I use my computers anyways is document processing or web browsing or editing videos and stuff like that. So now a Mac works out perfectly for me, and I tried to switch back to a Windows machine a while ago. I even have Windows on my Mac, actually, but the thing is, I just can't use it for long term. It doesn't work out for me, but it is what it is. And I can understand why Windows computers are good. And one of the actual key reasons why I don't go back to Windows, and I still haven't, is because there isn't any amazing hardware and software combination. Right now, the MacBook is the best combination of hardware and software when it comes to computer. Both of them work so well together. There isn't any Windows computer right now, Windows laptop, that I think is a beautiful mixture of both software and hardware. The Surface the Surface lineup came close, but they had their own flaws, and they were way too expensive in my opinion. So I'm waiting for something that's amazing hardware plus software, and I might give that a shot. And then obviously the obvious one, iOS versus Android. Now, this is something I used to be very hardcore on a couple of years ago. I was always iOS. I thought iOS was the best, and there was no point of Android phones because they were stupid. Now, that was naive me, and I've grown and I've come to appreciate what Android is and why it's so important for us to have Android, because without Android, there would be a lot of things that iOS would suck at right now, and Android has kind of been that competition needed for Apple to step up their game. iOS has been that thing that Android's needed to step up their game as well. So I'm very impressed with both platforms right now, but if it comes down to it, if I could only choose one, I generally would stick to iOS, mainly because it's simple and it works well with other Apple devices, which I have a lot of. So the compatibility within its ecosystem is something that I can't break away from. Not to mention, everything is just simple. There isn't much to worry about. I'm not a big customization person, so I don't need those customization skills and customization abilities, so it's okay with me. And even if I get Android phones, they generally all end up looking similar because I don't customize too much. I create it, make it look the way I want similarly, and that's how I leave it. So for me, when it comes down to it, I love Android. I can completely get on board with them now. I know why they're so good, but if I could only choose one, it's iOS. Coming up, some more unique questions now. I have an Instagram user who asked me, why don't you do videos on HTC devices? And that's a good question. So I started making videos just last year, and no really good HTC phones have come out since I started doing this, and I just haven't been in the mood to actually buy one of the older phones because they aren't too good, to be very honest with you. Now, I do have the Pixel 2, which is made by HTC if you want to count that in, but I wouldn't. So the HTC lineup, I'm looking forward to doing a video on an HTC phone. I used to love the brand. It's a very cool brand. They've done some very cool things with design in the past that people seem to forget. But right now, they've just lost their way, and they're really falling back. And I hope that they can come back the way that they hope to in the future. So another Instagram user asks a very interesting question. It's a little bit long. So they ask, what is the use of smart speakers when we can use virtual assistants on our smartphones, which we can connect to a normal speaker via the headphone jack or Bluetooth? So this is a good question, and I agree with him. If you want a smart speaker, you could basically do that. Get any speakers, plug up your phone to it, and you got a smart speaker, smart assistant speaker there. But the thing is, that means that you need to have a phone always connected to that speaker. You can't have an independent device there that you can always use to communicate with. So if you want something like a command to set up your lights or something like that, you need to have a device that's always on, always listening, and doesn't have to be fiddled with. Otherwise, there's no point to it. That's why I think smart assistants aren't why people aren't just connecting their phones to a normal speaker and making it into a smart assistant. You can definitely do that, but the idea is it won't work as seamlessly as it would if it was an independent standalone thing. Not to mention, a lot of people do buy them because of the audio quality. So, the Sonos speakers, there's the Google Home Max, the HomePod. All these have some very good audio quality as well to back up the smart assistant capabilities. So it kind of works out in that way where the smart speakers do have their own standalone capabilities. Not to mention that you can also play music directly from them. You don't need to connect another device like you need to do on a basic speaker that you could buy for 20 or 30 bucks. So that's why I think that these smart speakers are kind of getting traction. I mean, sure, you can connect a phone to an external speaker and start listening to music, but in my experience, it's cumbersome and honestly stop after a while because every time having to connect to that device, and if it doesn't connect, having to figure out why it's not connecting, it gets a little bit cumbersome. And if there's just a device always there ready to listen to a command and work, I feel like I'd use it a little bit more. And the final question is, what work do you do other than making videos? So currently I'm not doing much because I am set to graduate from university in about a month or so. So I'm focusing on finishing that off. I used to do some content creation on the side, such as content editing, writing, translation, a little bit of everything there. I've done these YouTube videos, but mostly I haven't had any sort of full-time job yet. I've been a full-time student, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do in the future, but yeah, right now, besides making these videos, the main thing I'm focused on is my education. So I hope that answers all your questions, guys. This was just a quick, informal kind of video, and in the future, I look forward to questions that don't have to be related to tech. I'd love to answer the tech questions, and I will, but if you guys don't have any tech questions, that's fine. You can ask me anything personal, or you could ask me something about a field that's completely away from tech, and I'd love to answer those for you. And be sure to follow me on social media to stay up to date to when these new videos would come out. I'll let you guys know, and I'll ask you the questions for the next time I do this video. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.